Michael, let's be honest, it's probably the biggest game in Cashel's history for a long, long time. Maybe going back to the time that they were in the senior final.
Certainly is, Stevie. I suppose we go back to '91, being in the winning the Munster final and going into the All Ireland semi-final and so on. But certainly it's a big game. We're into Cashel are gone back up senior now and proper senior after winning the county championship here, and it's brilliant to be in Cashel the week of a Munster final. Great for the club here, and great for Tipperary to have a club in a Munster hurling final with a serious chance of winning it, Stevie. Coming up against a very good, I will say, Cork champions, Watergrasshill. They're unbeaten in championship in 24. Two sides that are defensively strong, but it's their attack where they come to the fore. Goal scoring teams as well, I will say. Cashel have scored 21 goals in their 9 county championship games, and Watergrasshill scored 15 goals in their 6 Cork championship games. So it will be interesting to see will goal scoring be on the agenda on Saturday evening. A lot of the Watergrasshill lads would have played with Imokilly that won the Cork Senior Championship, so there'll be a lot of experience in it. I think there was 7 maybe on the panel, although three started on the day. But I suppose that's still a...
Would that make them favourites?
No, I think Cashel are favourites.
Why?
They're certainly favourites with the bookies anyway. But I think the way Cashel are playing, the way they're scoring, and I suppose the platform that their half-back line, which I seem to be talking about every time we're here, but I think they have a real good balance to that half-back line that sets a real good platform. Great protection out of Conor Dwyer for his full back line, and then I suppose that middle third where they do an awful lot of donkey work to free up the ball for inside.
I might just go over to Seán O'Dear. You might have a chat with me about the buzz that's in the town, Seán. What is it really like?
Well, as Michael kind of commented on 91, it is very reminiscent of the buzz, and it is in every sector of the town and surrounding area. Like the red and green, the town is bedecked in red and green, some of the most unlikely premises. They've all come on board. This team has captured the imagination. It's a very young team. There are 4 teenagers of the 15. There's only one, I'd say, the bulk of them are in their early 20s, under 25, and there's probably one in the late 20s. There might be 1 or 2 old hands on the panel. They wouldn't be that old either. But they've had a great long season, as it was in 91. And the exodus to Abbey Darney last Sunday week, it reminded me very much of the exodus that left town for Ballinasloe with the second match against Kiltarmer. And we nearly filled the train going to Croke Park. It was a semi-final, but in actual fact it was like a final, because Kiltarmer beat us in Croke Park and polished off Bor very easily in the final.
So effectively it was like a final in a way.
And a very strong link with the 2 teams of today and then. TJ Connolly was a stalwart on that team.
He was.
And there's now a very good manager and a good team with him.
He was a real workhorse, wasn't he?
Oh, very much so. I
was.
recall a titanic battle he had in Mitchelstown on Pat Hartnett. They went at each other with ferocious intensity, and there was no going back.
I remember that quite well in Mitchelstown back then. It was in December again.
It was the 8th of December,
The 8th
actually.
of December,
Yeah.
Coincidentally, yeah.
Yeah,
and
it was a very low scoring game.
a very, very low scoring game. John Fenton,
Oh Lord.
you know,
Yeah.
of the...
Ger Fitzgerald. They had a lot of big stars, yeah.
You remember that quite well, John?
Yeah, but you see, I suppose Middleton had the big stars, but Cashel had big stars at the time as well.
But Cashel have the big stars now again.
Yeah, but that time they had more stars that were recognised nationally than now. You know, established stars they had that time. Like, look, it's 2 different eras, 2 different competitions. They're going into Limerick tomorrow, Saturday evening. They are, you know, slight favourites with the bookies. I think justifiably so. They've had a good season. Little hiccup.
But all this favouritism is literally going to go out the window Would you agree or disagree once the ball is thrown in?
Of course it will. Yeah, that will have no bearing whatsoever, because it's very easy, I suppose, for the bookies to install favours. Like a 20 quid would probably turn.
It's just something
it,
I don't maybe buy into a lot of the times, because you just don't know
and
how
I don't
players
think
will react under
I
it.
don't think teams even buy into it anymore now, because you see, there's nothing. You can only go on the two different championships, and as Mike said there, Watergrasshill there, I think they had 3 starting in the county final. They had the centre back there, they had a corner forward and full forward there, and outside the full back, and they had a sub that came on. So they had 4 during that Cork senior final with Imo Kelly, that divisional team, So I suppose to get on a divisional team like that, it's only the best from each clubs are picked, and especially down in Cork, where they take their divisional side very, very serious, But look, that'll count for nothing in 6 o'clock Saturday evening in there. Mike said there, Cashel, they build. I think I've great time for their full back line. It's probably the same 3 for the whole year, unchanged, that line, unsung heroes. They're well guarded though now, and they have the half back line is sort of would Cathal Quinn going back now into the right half back position there in a change with young Cummins. It's a very solid half back line with Quinn, Conor O'Dwyer, and the young lad of the Conleys, Ronan Conley. You see, and that sort of, then you have that nucleus in around the middle of the field there. You have Owen Conley. You have Paddy Fahy. You have
and Paddy gets through so much work, doesn't he? Doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Like it doesn't. There's no doubt about that. Like, you know what I mean. And that sort of sets up a platform then for the forwards. They have a good half forward line, but I suppose the 6 forwards as a unit, like in the day against Newcastle West, twas about Owen Conley and what you call him, Devon Ryan. But the last day then, all the various fellas chipping in with scores. There's very, very much spread around, like, and that's very important as well, like that. And they have 3 or 4 lads that they pick to come on at various times in it. Ger Brown being one of them, comes on, he gets the score. They're using TJ Conley is using.
Look at the experience Ger Brown is bringing. All Ireland minor, under 21 and senior hurling medals in his back pocket. Look at when he reads the ball, he reads it very well. Look at the speed he carries, and it's all down to the experience at as Seán said there, young people, such a young age. But Watergrasshill are going to bring a massive challenge here now to Cashel KC.
They are, and they're coached by a Tipperary man there. Eddie Enright, who is down there for years and years. That's his second home now, and they had gone through a lean period like a lot of clubs do. They bounced back this year, came through Cork, came through Wolf Tones of Shannon. Now they lost. They had a man sent off on a red card against Wolf Tones the last day. So that but look at, they have a very strong outfit. So look, it'll be a hard one for Cashel, but I certainly fancy Cashel going into Limerick on Sunday.
Michael, from what you've heard from the 2 lads so far, what have you taken from it?
I sure listen. When you're listening to Seán, they're talking about the buzz and the colour that's around the town of Cashel. It goes to show, I suppose, what the GA in general means to people in every parish and club in the country, and Cashel, I suppose, is no different in that regard. And it is great to see the Cashel public get behind this team, because they've done fantastically well throughout the year. As John has said, nearly every time we talk about Cashel, that they've won every competition that they've entered so far this year, which is I suppose a brilliant thing to have in their locker. So they don't know how to be bet. That early loss in the county championship to Gortnahoe, going back in there to the end of July, and that came with an injury time goal from Keane Hayes to beat them, and possibly against a run of play. That was a very, very good game. But yeah, look, Watergrasshill, as John said, a real turnaround. Watergrasshill hadn't won a group game in Cork in 3 years, and are now county champions. And it goes to show when the thing is right, and I suppose good people over the team and so on, that you can turn it around very quickly. And I will say that TJ Connolly coming in as manager of Cashel has really turned their fortunes around over the last 12 months. TJ was involved with Kilsheelan there last year in the intermediate championship. He came back to his native Cashel at the start of the year, and they've done fantastically well over the
former under 21 manager as well.
And very unlucky that time when he was manager of the under 21.
So he brings great experience to this. But Seán, if I could go back to you there for a moment, what else do you think that TJ is bringing to this team?
Well, he's welded them into they tended to be a bit individualistic early in the season, and I think he's got a great teamwork going now, which was, I thought, absent in their earlier games. And in fact, they struggled greatly against the likes of Éire on many occasions. And a real monkey on their back was the Borlahan game, because I'd say every one of them went to school together and they socialised together. And they struggled and were lucky enough maybe to beat Borlahan, but I think they really took off from there. I think that was a very difficult assignment.
Yeah, once they got over the Borlahan match, I suppose, John, really was the time that really set the tone in for Cashel, wasn't it?
It did, because they had come off that was probably the first game where they were, dealing from a full deck injury-wise there. Paddy Fahey was back, Carl Quinn was back. They had a sort of a slump just before that, and that coincided with the injuries. And it took them 50 minutes really before they got got over Borlahan. I suppose Borlahan's downfall probably was, while Cashel wasn't going great, Borlahan was depending an awful lot on place balls. But Owen Connolly kept Cashel into it. But then all of a sudden, like, you hit a button there. I think they got the last 4 or 5 points there in Dundrum, and it's a huge game. And they pushed on from there. The county quarter final then against the Sarsfield, that was over at half time. The semi final, we know all the thrills and spills of extra time against Upper Church, who an awful lot of people fancied to go all the way this year. And then they came up against the Swan in the county final. Shaky enough for a while, but then they got this long range free from Owen Connolly that went into the back of the net. But you see, you need something like that. But they were able to push on from there then, and after they hit the throttle then again, pushed on from there, and got a lot of their best hurling was played in that final 20 minutes against the Swan, because the Swan were a formidable outfit. Make no mistake about that,
Michael, when you weigh it up, they're going to be probably in the Gaelic grounds at about 4:45, 4:45 on Saturday evening. There's going to be a lot of nerves.
I mean, there has to be
for both teams.
Yeah. It's a Munster final, and there's a lot at stake, I suppose. And that of course there'll be nerves. But I suppose nerves are good too. You don't want to be overconfident. And look, I think the way the games have gone, and even talking about that Borlahan game and if you go back to the game before that against Éire where Cashel got the draw, they were behind coming down the stretch and managed to get something out of that Cashel game. They were behind, I think, 2 or 3 points in that Borlahan game and scored I think, was it 8 points to 2 or something to finish up the game. And again kind of came from behind in the surging run from Paddy Fahey to get the draw in the Upper Church game, and from behind against Carrick Swan on 46 minutes, get I suppose a little bit of luck that everybody needs, but scored two fantastic points within 3 minutes of that to tie the game up, and that and then in Abbeydorney, like that was going into, we spoke about it going into the lines, and there was a huge crowd under. Yes, there was a good crowd from Cashel, but there was a huge home crowd as well.
Cashel didn't know what to expect from Abbeydorney, did they?
No, I mean, they would have seen the game against the Waterford crowd that Abbeydorney would have won in extra time as well. Bricky Rangers, yeah. They would have had that to go on, and probably the senior final against against Ballyduff in the Kerry Championship, which I think was refed by Kevin Jordan from Tip. So they might have had a little bit of insight into that. But as you said, it's not a team that they would have come up against. Or sure, listen, like a lot of these teams, barrier going playing them in challenges. It's not something.
But you know what, though, even Seán, again, if I could just briefly go back to you, it's all about the performance on the day, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You see, this Cashel being favourites kind of amuses me a small bit. That in itself is a burden. But the credentials that Watergrasshill have, I'd be very cautious about it, you know, because they've acquitted themselves very well all year, as indeed have Cashel. But it's only later in the season that I think Cashel really came good and performed to the standard that they achieved.
Good now at the right time.
Oh, I hope so, very much so, yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, John, isn't it?
Oh, you mentioned Paddy Fahey. I think he's an unsung hero of that team.
Well, I think he is. And
he'd go through a stone wall for you and would take several belts on the way and keep going.
Yeah, because I remember...
There's some lovely hurlers like Oisin O'Donoghue and Davy McGrath, but the real spade work, Paddy is the man.
Because I remember actually reading a piece on Facebook recently with Elaine Maloney, and she said it's amazing that there's no mention of Paddy Fahey at times, you know, and he deserves it because he's a great hurler, but what a workhorse, John.
Yeah, but he has always been coming up through the underage with Cashel. He's always been a leading light with him, but sort of an unsung hero, Seán said. But he doesn't steal the limelight like other players, you know. He gets about his business there. He can pick off a score as well. He can win a free.
Sign of a great hurler.
He can man mark. You know, he's one of these guys that every team would like to have a guy like him. You know what I mean? Young Davy McGrath inside in the corner, and young Bonner in the other corner there. You know, on their day, both of them are match winners as well. Like, you know. They went through, like every player goes through a lean period or a lean couple of games during a season. Now, there's somebody on Saturday evening is not going to play up to standard because that's team sport, that's hurling. You know, that's the nature of
so
the thing.
For the like of TJ Conley Din, Michael, the most important thing for TJ is get the best out of all the players. An early touch is crucial, isn't it? From the minute the ball is thrown in, settle down.
Yeah, well, I mean, like... For every team sport, really, yes, you can look at the opposition and you can maybe try to predict what they're going to do, but in reality, you need to get the best out of your own players, and your own team need to perform to the best of their ability, Stevie. And after that, then you know whatever happens. But from a Watergrasshill point of view, or would say from a Cashel point of view, looking at Watergrasshill, the two guys that were on the McKillie team at corner forward and full forward, they interchange between centre forward and full forward. Adam Murphy and Seán Desmond, and they look to be two very strong players. And there's a guy that plays corner forward for Watergrasshill, Brendan Lahan. He seems to pop up with 2 or 3 points in the majority of their games. So they're probably forwards, especially Desmond and Murphy, that Cashel, a quality that Cashel maybe haven't seen in over a course of a couple of games. So they'll have to be alive to that. Desmond captains the team from full forward. He was last day centre forward in the county final. He's and is able to get goals and plays a real leader's part. Adam Murphy takes the frees. He had 12 points against Abbeydorney, 9 frees, 3 from play, and in the county final he had 8 points and 5 from frees. So they're 3 guys that they'll really have to look after. But I think the linchpin of their team is Darragh O'Leary, who plays at centre back. Looking back on all the reports, even going back to the Mallow game back in the middle of August, he was the guy that kind of pulled them through all the games. Real good centre back. He was wing back on that McKillie team that won the county final. So there's a lot of pedigree there. So they're just, I suppose, 3 or 4 guys that Cashel will certainly have to look at. If Darragh O'Leary is the guy that does all the hurling for them out of their half back line, it's going to be interesting to see how Cashel plays the placement of Devon, I suppose, and he tends to drift off the centre back and comes looking for ball, trying to make things happen. He's well able to take a score himself from long range or give it in. And then we saw in the county final that he found himself on the edge of the square, picked up a pass and put it in the back of the net. So it'll be interesting to see what way Devon plays it, whether TJ places him on, the guy that potentially is the match winner for Watergrasshill, or maybe tries to put one of maybe Paddy or James to sit on him and maybe stop him from doing all the hurling. So it'll be interesting to see that. But I think Murphy and Desmond up front, Nathan and Connor will have a lot of work to do, and I suppose Owen will have a lot of maybe covering and sitting back to give that protection to Connor, who will give that protection to the full back line, so that those guys can't find the space to get the scores.
John, do you think that both teams are going to go man to man?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I think Cashel,
Why?
Cashel will, well, the way Cashel have been playing, Owen is sort of sitting back. Cummins can come out around the middle of the field, as a, and they're,
So Owen is there to mop up a lot of stuff.
he is, yeah. And Connor protects the full back line. I don't think they're going to change their game plan, because you can only do what you have control over. TJ Connolly has control over Cashel and the way they'll attempt to play. He has no control over Watergrasshill.
Absolutely.
So
not.
you have to work to your own strengths and let the opposition worry about you rather than you worrying about them. And you'll often get teams and they pick their team to maybe combat the other side of it. And by and large, it doesn't work. You pick your own team and let the opposition worry about you. And it's an even Steven on Saturday evening there. But I still think, and I have, that Cashel, they're finishing well. And that's a great trait in a team. That last 10 minutes there, was it down in Newcastle West, they were in trouble again, halfway through the second half. And, looked in serious trouble.
It kind of reminds me a lot of what you're saying is, if you look at the inter-county, Limerick used to always finish very well in the last 10 minutes. It's quite similar, Seán, now to Cashel, isn't it?
Well, a worrying aspect of the Cashel all year is the notoriously slow starters. And even at Newcastle West, I think they got a goal in a matter of seconds. And they were on the hind foot from early on. But they've always finished strongly. But I'd rather see them starting strong and hopefully finishing strong on Saturday evening.
To be better for the heart.
Yeah, and only this afternoon I put out 4 trophies they've won in the window, and I've left the space, hopefully, for one on Saturday.
Well, I'll ask you while you're there now, Seán, I'll
Sure.
ask you one question. For the town of Cashel, the surrounding areas, what would it actually mean to see Cashel being crowned Munster champions?
It ought to be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Not alone Cashel, but its hinterland. Cashel is strong, they have a strong rugby team, soccer, all sports are played.
It's a great sports town.
A great sports town. And even some
Dr.
of the team.
Hartley Cup champions only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, now in fairness, I was at it yesterday, I was near Mr. O'Shea, but he didn't even salute me.
Well, it depends on the company.
I know, he's a bit of elitist. But anyway, there was just 3 from the King Cormorants, and there was places, as Micheál Murray Hirtic would say, not strongholds of hurling, like Clarehan and Feathers.
It's good to see that.
It is great, it is great. The one area that we're not getting anymore is Clonolty. They are all going to Thurles now, and they were the backbone of many a CBS team in my young days. But you can't have it everywhere. We've Knockavella and Golden. I don't know how many parishes were represented. Now, they performed well, but I think the opposition wasn't great. Lismore. They weren't rated highly this year, but they might prove us all wrong, and I hope they do. Because that Harty Cup match that they won against the Cup final against Thurles CBS gave me one of the biggest thrills of my life. Because when I was on Rice Cup teams and Croke Cup teams, if we stayed within 12 goals of Thurles Longo, we'd be doing well. So it was very sweet to beat Thurles of all outfits.
On a business perspective, before I
right,
this,
okay.
how is the town of Cashel actually going?
It's quite good. I'd say it's better than most. Well, I suppose I'm biased. I'm retired myself, but I've I started the pharmacy in 1968. It had been a drapery in my family for 100 years before that. There are very few vacant premises on the main street, unlike some towns which I don't like to mention. There's one baby black spot, the Grand Sir Carney's Castle Hotel. To be great if someone would take that. And so essential.
In time,
Yeah, but it's a long time there, and it's a kind of a running sore.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
One thing that amazes me right now as we're talking, the county council are doing a job on the plaza. Now the plaza was fine, there was feck all wrong with it. And they're above with diggers. They worked all through one night and kept half the town awake. And nobody knows what it's about. They were going to take down 5 or 6 lovely trees, but there was intervention and they thought better of it.
Maybe it is a mystery for 2025.
I'd say it is, and I hope Saturday evening won't be a mystery that will come out with tails flying.
John Collett.
Cashel, I've fancied them all the year there, and they have delivered the goods. They have the personnel to do it, but it's probably going to be their toughest game this year so far. And yeah, I do fancy them to bring back the trophy to Cashel and West Tipperary, because I think West Tipperary could do with an old boost now, and especially going in next year, Cashel are back up senior, and I think that people are looking forward already to a West final between Cashel and Clowney, renewing, old rivalry from way back.
Michael?
Yeah, Stevie, look, I suppose maybe just to pick up on the question you asked Seán there about the town of Cashel and what it would mean to him, but there was a very interesting survey that came out today, and John Fogarty mentioned it there on X, that the inter-county games in Thurles were worth 3.2 million to the town of Thurles, and 4.5 million to the county of Tipperary. And I think that shows how much the GA can bring to towns and parishes in Ireland, and how much it means and how much it drives everything. And I'm sure we're sitting here in TJ Ryan's pub in Cashel, and I'm sure there's a buzz around since Cashel started winning, and people are feeling better about themselves because they love the GA club, and I found no matter where you go, you'll always be asked how the GA team are going in your parish, no matter where you're from in Ireland, because that's, I suppose, ingrained in people, and it's just great, and it's great to see. I'm going to agree with the lads. It would be great for Cashel, it would be great for West Tipperary and Tipperary to bring home a Munster intermediate hurling title. I think looking at the stats, both teams are very even. Watergrasshill manage about 218 a game, Cashel manage about 219 a game.
Very little between them.
Very little between them, and I know I was maybe blowing up the Watergrasshill forwards because they have been performing well, but the Cashel forwards I think have been excellent all year. We've mentioned Devin Ryan. We haven't mentioned Oisin O'Donoghue there. So far
one
tonight,
of the rising stars.
Absolutely, guy that has done wonderful stuff for Tipperary and for Cashel all year. He's probably the reason that they're in the position they are by his exploits in extra time against Upperchurch. I think we saw his character in the last game against Abbey Dorney, where he didn't have the greatest of starts, but more than made up for it as he had made up for it within 20 minutes with the way he had hurled, and then got the vital goal in the second half. Ross Bonner, who got a huge goal for Cashel against Abbey Dorney, because to get in 1-6 apiece was it, I think, at half time, was a big thing for Cashel that day. David McGrath has been mentioned. I think he's been hurling very well, and Anthony Walsh puts in a shift for the 40 minutes normally that he's on, and then I suppose the introduction of Ger Brown, Adrian Cummins, possibly Simon Delaney and Dan Maloney seem to be the subs, the kind of the go-to subs that Cashel are going.
Very strong panel now.
Very, very strong. So for that reason, I think from a scoring point of view, I think Cashel are more than capable of outscoring Watergrasshill. So I'd give them the nod for Saturday evening.
So there you have it, folks. Seán O'Dear, John O'Shea, along with Michael McCarthy. The big question is, where is the cup going on this coming Saturday evening? Is it going to be going to Watergrasshill in County Cork, here in Tipperary, in TJ Ryan's, and again, as the lad said, they're hoping the cup is going to be coming back here to the town of Cashel. All will be revealed in the Gaelic grounds on Saturday evening. All we can do is only wish them all the very best of luck. A big thank you to TJ Ryan and Joan here at the pub in Cashel.